Love makes fools of us all. I used to think I was the luckiest man alive, married to the most breathtaking woman, Emily. She wasn't just beautiful, she was mesmerizing. Blonde waves cascading past her shoulders, piercing blue eyes, and a smile that could melt the coldest heart. For 8 years she was my world. I provided for her, supported her dreams, and stood by her side no matter what. And I thought she did the same for me. That illusion shattered on a night that started like any other. I had been away on a business trip, a standard 3-day conference in Seattle. At least, that's what Emily believed. At the last minute, my boss rescheduled the event, leaving me free to return home a day early. Excited, I decided to surprise my wife. Maybe we'd have a romantic evening, reconnect, make love like we used to before life got too busy. Pulling into the driveway, I noticed something odd. Emily's car sat parked outside, but the house, usually dark and quiet by this hour, glowed with dim, flickering light. My heart beat a little faster. Candles? A movie night? Maybe she missed me as much as I missed her. I stepped inside, setting my bag down gently to avoid making noise. That's when I heard it, low, deep grunts. A woman's moans followed, loud, desperate, unmistakable. For a moment, my mind refused to process it. Maybe it was the TV? Maybe she was watching something intimate? But then, I heard his voice. God, you're so tight, babe. The air left my lungs. My feet felt cemented to the floor. Chris, Emily gasped between breaths. Your big stick is so much better than my husband's. Time stopped. My vision blurred with rage, pain, humiliation. My wife, was in our bed, praising another man's size while moaning his name. I should have barged in, ripped him off her, screamed, thrown her out. But I didn't. Instead, I reached for my phone. If there was any doubt, I needed proof. My fingers trembled as I pressed record. Chris chuckled, completely unaware of the destruction he was causing. Does your little husband even satisfy you? Emily let out a mocking laugh. Barely. He's so boring in bed. I have to fake it every time. A blade twisted in my gut. Years of whispered I love yous, tender touches, passionate nights. Had it all been fake? Was I just some pathetic joke to her? My knuckles turned white, gripping the doorframe as I forced myself to keep listening. You should leave him, babe, Chris murmured, his voice dripping with arrogance. Emily sighed. I would, but he pays for everything. Our house, my car, my shopping trips? No way I'm giving that up. My stomach churned. She wasn't just cheating, she was using me. I backed away from the doorway, breathing heavily, my mind racing. Walking out would have been easy, but I refused to be another fool left broken by betrayal. No, I would make her regret this. Revenge wasn't just an option. It was a necessity. I left the house quietly, driving aimlessly through the city. Betrayal burned in my veins, but beneath it, a cold, calculated clarity took over. I wouldn't just expose her. I would destroy her. Emily had mocked my manhood. She had laughed at my loyalty. Now, she would learn the true price of humiliation. I didn't sleep that night. Rage, betrayal, humiliation, each emotion crashed over me like violent waves, but beneath the fury, a plan began to form. Emily thought she had me figured out. To her, I was weak, clueless, too blind with love to ever suspect her infidelity. She had no idea I had recorded everything. No clue I had caught her moaning another man's name in the bed I paid for. And she definitely didn't know that by tomorrow, her perfect little life would start crumbling. By morning, my rage had transformed into something much deadlier, cold, merciless calculation. First move, financial devastation. Emily had always been reckless with money, living a lavish life funded solely by me. The house? In my name. The bank accounts? All under my control. The credit cards? Issued under my income. She never bothered to work, always finding new excuses. I want to focus on my influencer career. A regular job would ruin my creativity. You make enough for both of us. She had no idea that her sugar daddy was about to cut her off completely. Before heading to work, I met with my lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Vanessa. As soon as I laid out my case, she leaned back in her chair, lips curling into a smirk. "She's screwed," Vanessa said, flipping through the legal documents. "With this recording? She won't get a penny in the divorce." I exhaled slowly, gripping the armrests of my chair. "That's exactly what I want." Vanessa nodded. "File the paperwork today. Move all joint assets to separate accounts. If she's been using your cards, cut them off. Make sure she feels the financial strain before she even sees the divorce papers." I smirked. "Already ahead of you." An hour later, I had moved every dollar out of our shared account. I canceled her credit cards, froze access to my banking apps, and even transferred the house deed into a protected trust, meaning she couldn't touch it without my permission. By the time Emily woke up and tried to use her Amex, she'd be in for the first of many surprises. Second move: public humiliation. Emily had built a brand on social media, an image of a devoted wife, living her dream life with her perfect husband. Lies. Every single one. I planned to rip that image apart. That night, Emily hosted a dinner party for our closest friends. She had no idea I knew about Chris, nor did she expect me to play the part of the clueless husband one last time. She greeted me at the door, pressing a kiss to my cheek. The scent of expensive perfume lingered in the air. Her blue eyes sparkled with excitement, as if she weren't the same woman who had called me boring while riding another man. I smiled at her like nothing was wrong. Let her believe she was safe. Our living room filled with laughter, glasses clinking as our guests mingled. Emily, ever the performer, played the role of the charming wife, leaning into me, whispering fake sweet nothings into my ear. I let her enjoy the moment. Then, halfway through dinner, I stood up. "Everyone," I said, raising my glass, my tone dripping with false warmth, "I have something special to share tonight." Emily beamed, assuming I was about to make some romantic gesture. The guests quieted, eyes turning toward me. I pulled out my phone, tapped a button, and let the recording play. The room froze. Emily's moans filled the space, breathy and unmistakable. Chris's deep grunts followed. "God, Chris, your big stick is so much better than my husband's." Gasp. A fork clattered against a plate. Someone choked on their drink. Emily turned ghostly white. "I can explain." I turned to her, my voice calm. "Explain what?" "How you humiliated me. How you mocked me while screwing another man in our bed." She burst into tears, hands covering her mouth. Across the room, my best friend, Mark, shook his head in disgust. His wife, Olivia, grabbed Emily's arm. "You're unbelievable." "And Chris? The man who ruined my marriage?" His night got worse. See, I had done my homework. Chris wasn't single. He had a long-term girlfriend, Melanie. And guess who I invited to the party? Melanie, dressed in a sleek black dress, walked in just as the recording ended. She stared at Chris, her lips curling in pure hatred. "You absolute piece of trash," she hissed before throwing her drink in his face. The room erupted. People murmured, shaking their heads. Some looked away, embarrassed. Chris stood there, drenched, looking like a complete idiot. Emily grabbed my arm. Please, let's talk privately." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Privately? Like how you kept your little affair private." She sobbed. "I was stupid. It meant nothing." I leaned in, my voice a whisper. "No, Emily. You mean nothing." And then, for the final humiliation, I turned toward our guests and said, "By the way, she's single now. I filed for divorce this morning." Gasp. Shock. Emily collapsed onto a chair, hands trembling. I walked out of my own house that night with my head held high. The revenge had only begun. The night of the party had been just the beginning. Humiliating Emily in front of our friends, exposing her lies, and cutting off her financial support was satisfying, but I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. Emily had destroyed our marriage with her lust and betrayal. Now I was going to destroy the comfortable little life she had built at my expense. The fallout begins. The morning after the party, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in years. No more pretending. No more wasting my love on a woman who saw me as nothing more than an ATM. Emily, on the other hand, was about to wake up to hell. I had already filed for divorce, ensuring that she wouldn't get a single dime. But I wanted to twist the knife deeper. First, I made a call to the landlord of the luxury yoga studio Emily attended. She had been getting free sessions under the assumption that I was financing them. Well, not anymore. "Hey, this is Daniel Carter," I said, keeping my voice casual. "Just calling to inform you that Emily Carter's account is no longer active. If she wants to continue, she'll need to start paying her own way." The woman on the other end paused before replying, "Oh, well, she already has a pretty big outstanding balance." I smirked. That's her problem now. Next, I called the leasing company for her car, the white Mercedes she loved to flaunt on Instagram. "Emily Carter? Yeah, the payments won't be coming from me anymore." By noon, she would have no car, no gym privileges, and no money. Emily's panic. At exactly 12:37 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Emily." I let it ring. Then it rang again. And again. Finally, I picked up. "Yes." Her voice was a mix of rage and desperation. "Daniel, what the hell did you do? My credit cards are declined. My bank account is empty. The landlord said I need to start paying rent, and my freaking car is about to be repossessed." I smiled to myself. Sounds rough. You can't just cut me off like this. I don't have a job. Not my problem. Her breath hitched. "Daniel, please." I made a mistake. I was stupid. I let temptation get the best of me, but I never stopped loving you. I almost laughed. Love? The same woman who called me boring? Who bragged about another man's size? "I don't care what you feel, Emily." My voice was cold. "You used me. You disrespected me. You humiliated me. Now you're facing the consequences." Her voice cracked. "I don't have anywhere to go." "Not my concern," I said, about to hang up. Then, she made her biggest mistake yet. "You're being petty," she snapped. "All this over a mistake? You were a terrible husband anyway. You worked too much, barely paid attention to me, and yeah, Chris was better in bed than you. That's why I did it." I chuckled darkly. "Well, Emily, I hope he's good enough to support you now. Because you have nothing left." And with that, I blocked her number. Ruining Chris. Emily wasn't the only one who needed to learn a lesson. Chris, the arrogant prick who thought he could wreck my marriage and walk away untouched, had his own reckoning coming. I had dug deep into his life. Turned out, Chris had more to lose than I thought. He worked for a high-end real estate agency, one that prided itself on integrity and professionalism. Too bad his bosses had no clue about the kind of man they had representing them. With a few well-placed emails, including a link to the recording of him bragging about sleeping with a married woman, Chris's job was history. But I wasn't done. He had been using his company's cars and credit cards to take Emily out, treating her to fancy dinners, hotels, and weekend getaways, all while submitting fraudulent expense reports. I made sure his employer found out. By the end of the week, Chris wasn't just unemployed. He was being investigated for embezzlement. And the best part? Melanie dumped him too. Emily hits rock bottom. A week after the party, I received a text from an unknown number. "Emily, Daniel, please. I need help. I'm staying at a friend's place, but I have no money. No car. I don't even have enough for groceries. Please, can we just talk?" I stared at the message for a long time. She had gone from bragging about another man to begging me for help. A month ago, I might have given in. But now? I didn't even reply. Instead, I took a sip of my whiskey, leaned back in my chair, and smiled. Emily had made her choices, and I had made sure she would never forget them. Emily had lost everything: her money, her status, her so-called lover, and even the friends who once admired her. She was now a ghost of the woman who had once flaunted her affair like a trophy. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I wanted her to feel the full weight of her betrayal. I wanted her to understand that some mistakes can't be undone. Emily's desperation. A few days after her last pathetic text, I ran into Olivia, Mark's wife, at a coffee shop. She hesitated before speaking, then leaned in with a smirk. "You'll never guess who I saw today." I arched a brow. "Who?" She sipped her latte, eyes filled with amusement. "Emily. At a run-down motel outside of town." I nearly laughed. "Seriously?" "Oh yeah," she continued. She looked rough. No makeup, cheap clothes. Like she hasn't slept in days. I wasn't surprised. She had no money, no home, and no one willing to bail her out. Then Olivia's expression turned smug. She was working the front desk. My lips curled. "She got a job?" "She had no choice," Olivia said. "She's broke. No one wants to help her. Even her influencer friends have cut her off. Guess they only liked her when she had money." Karma was delicious. The last conversation. A week later, I was finishing up at the gym when I stepped outside and saw her. Emily. She stood near my car, arms wrapped around herself, shivering in the cold. Her once perfect blonde hair looked dull, her designer clothes replaced with a cheap jacket that was a size too big. She looked defeated. I should have walked past her. But I didn't. I wanted to hear what she had to say. She looked up as I approached, her blue eyes filled with shame. "Daniel," she whispered. "Please. Just give me 5 minutes." I leaned against my car, arms crossed. "You've got to." Tears welled in her eyes. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I messed up. No, I ruined everything. I thought I was untouchable, that I could do whatever I wanted and you'd always be there. But I was wrong." I said nothing. She swallowed hard. "I've lost everything. The money, the house, the car. Chris turned out to be a lying bastard who only wanted a free ride. And now, I'm working at a motel just to survive." She took a shaky breath. "I've hit rock bottom, Daniel. And I know it's my fault." I tilted my head. "So, what do you want?" She looked down, embarrassed. I want to try again. To rebuild. Even if it's not as your wife, just as someone in your life. I don't have anyone else." I let her words hang in the air. Let her feel the weight of the silence. Then I spoke. "You made your bed, Emily." My voice was cold. "Now lie in it." Her face crumbled. I opened my car door, pausing for one last look at the broken woman before me. "You bragged about another man," I said softly. "Now, tell me, was it worth it?" A single tear rolled down her cheek. I didn't wait for an answer. I got in my car, started the engine, and drove away, leaving Emily exactly where she belonged. Alone. The sweet taste of freedom. As I drove, a sense of peace washed over me. I had won. Not just by destroying her life, but by freeing myself from the weight of her betrayal. For the first time in years, I felt alive. Emily was nothing but a chapter in my past. And I was finally ready for my future.